In the hushed grandeur of the papal event, Swiss Guard Michael Turner's foot slipped, sending a ripple of shock through the sea of dignitaries. As time stood still, a single question flooded every mind. Would he restore his honor? What happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. Michael Turner stood at his post, polished armor gleaming under the soft light filtering through the stained glass windows of St. Peter's Basilica. The grandeur of the sacred space mirrored the gravity of his duty. For Michael, every day in the Vatican was imbued with a mixture of reverence and responsibility. The sonorous chants that echoed through the high ceilings seemed almost to whisper the legends of the past Swiss Guard in his ears, among whom his grandfather had been a celebrated figure. From childhood, Michael had been enamored by the tales of bravery and honor that his grandfather used to recount. These stories, rich with historical gravity, were more than mere anecdotes. They were lessons in valor and integrity. For Michael, enlisting in the Swiss Guard was not just a career choice. It was a calling rooted deep in the soil of familial devotion and a sincere dedication to service. The weight of his grandfather's legacy was a guiding force, shaping Michael's every move with an unseen hand. As he patrolled the echoing halls resplendent with sacred art, each step was taken with the precision and intent to uphold the noble ideals he cherished. The discipline he'd cultivated in training was evident in his sharp movements and the calm, resolved expression on his face. The uniform he wore symbolized a commitment not only to the church, but to centuries of tradition. It was a patchwork of the past and present, each thread woven with tales of sacrifice and sacrifice made in silence, away from the adulations of the outside world. This was a world where faith met duty, and where, for Michael, the paths of spirituality and dedication converged into a singular route adorned with the motto of his family: courage in silence. As each day unfurled like a scroll of ancient scripture, Michael found joy in the smallest rituals of his service. From the morning drills that sharpened his skills to the solemn prayers that fortified his spirit, every action was an act of homage to his grandfather and the valorous men who had stood before him. His keen eyes missed nothing, taking in the elegant movements of the cardinals, the hurried footsteps of the clergy, and the quiet reverence of the pilgrims. Yet, beneath the layers of discipline and duty was a tapestry of emotions: respect, ambition, and a deep-seated desire to make his grandfather proud. In moments of solitude, as candlelight flickered in the silence of the chapel, Michael would find himself reflecting on the past, his mind woven into the fabric of time, bound by the invisible threads of heritage and honor. His grandfather's watch, once a humble piece of metal, now a revered relic, ticked faithfully at his wrist, an enduring reminder of time's passage and the eternal watch of those who had gone before him. Every tick resonated with Michael's heartbeat, a silent pact between the present and the legacy he was destined to protect. In those silent, contemplative moments, nestled in the heart of the Vatican's eternal grace, Michael Turner understood his place not as a fleeting guardian of this hallowed ground, but as a part of the continuing lineage of guardians, a chain unbroken and infinitely strong. The Grand Hall of the Vatican was a sight to behold, a testament to centuries of history, faith, and grandeur. The expansive ceilings were adorned with intricate murals that seemed to whisper tales of old, and the marble floors, polished to perfection, mirrored the majesty of the room. Statues of saints stood sentinel, their stone gazes imbued with a silent, eternal wisdom. It was in this solemn, awe-inspiring setting that Michael Turner stood, a proud member of the Swiss Guard, embodying the legacy of generations before him. The air was thick with anticipation, the kind that accompanies high-profile events where destiny often plays its hand. Representatives from all corners of the globe filled the seats, an array of dignitaries and esteemed guests waiting eagerly for the arrival of the Holy Father. Michael, stationed strategically, was the epitome of discipline in his resplendent uniform, the halberd in his hand a symbol of his unwavering duty. Every muscle in his body was taut with readiness, every fiber of his being focused on the task at hand. But somewhere beneath this armored composure, a slight tremor of unease began to unfurl, a feeling unfamiliar and unwelcome. As the event proceeded with solemnity, time seemed to stretch and contract in peculiar ways, each tick of the clock resonating like a thunderclap against the quiet reverence of the moment. Onlookers, caught in the silent grip of expectancy, watched as the procession moved with meticulous precision. Michael remained a steadfast presence, his training guiding every movement. But then, as if fate had decided to intervene with a mischievous flick of its wrist, the unthinkable happened. In a surreal instant that seemed to bend the very fabric of reality, Michael's foot slipped. The firm grip of the polished marble betrayed him, sending a shockwave through his body and rippling outward into the audience. The dignified silence shattered like glass as whispers of shock and disbelief swirled through the crowd, a symphony of murmured astonishment. For a heartbeat, Michael was weightless, an unexpected freefall that threatened to undo the years of dedication he had poured into his role. His mind raced, attempting to recalibrate against this unforeseen betrayal of balance. The once familiar weight of his armor turned foreign, as though his very essence had slipped along with his footing. Every eye in the room was upon him, the collective gaze a beacon of scrutiny and judgment. Michael's heart thundered in his chest, a drumbeat of vulnerability echoing in the cathedral's vast expanse. In that charged moment, he felt the cool touch of fear against his skin, a reminder of the thin line between composure and chaos. Yet, even amid this spiral of impending humiliation, the soldier within him rallied, a stubborn flame refusing to be extinguished. Confidence, momentarily shaken, sought its moorings as Michael inhaled a breath of resolve, preparing to rise from the unexpected fall with dignity intact. The scene, while startling, was but a moment in time, a test of fortitude, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of public scrutiny. The tension clung to the air like morning mist, waiting for the light of resolution to coax it into dispersal. And Michael, gathering his shattered confidence piece by piece, prepared to stand once more, keenly aware that this too was part of his sacred duty. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm golden light through the ancient arches of St. Peter's Basilica. The grandeur of the papal event was underscored by the whispers of reverence that glided through the marble halls. Yet amidst this sea of solemnity and decorum, an unforeseen ripple disrupted the serene surface. Michael Turner, a steadfast member of the Swiss Guard, had just experienced what every guard dreads, a momentary slip. In the eyes of the gathered dignitaries and visiting cardinals, such a moment was fleeting, perhaps even inconsequential. Yet for Michael, it was a shudder through the very foundation of the pride and honor he held so dear. As he struggled to reclaim his footing, the echoes of his grandfather's words resonated deeply within him. "Hold your head high, always." Those words, once a guiding light, now felt like a ghostly reproach. But it was in this moment of vulnerability that an unexpected ally emerged from the shadows of prestige and piety. Father John, a senior clergyman with an unassuming demeanor yet a reputation of quiet strength, approached Michael with the kind of solemn grace that seemed to part the air. His presence was a gentle breeze after the storm, offering a balm to Michael's wounded dignity. Kneeling slightly to meet Michael's fallen gaze, Father John spoke words that were soft yet indelibly profound. "Courage is not the absence of falter, but the presence of resolve," he said, his voice a calm river of assurance. "Your dedication here is evident to all who have eyes to see. Do not let a single moment define the breadth of your service." These words, simple yet potent, were like a lifeline cast into turbulent waters. They embedded themselves into Michael's consciousness, each syllable a stepping stone back to his resolve. The rigidity of embarrassment began to soften, replaced by an inner warmth that swelled with gratitude and a newfound sense of purpose. The weight of expectation, the legacy he carried, not as a burden, but as a mantle he was worthy to bear. As he straightened, the marble underfoot solidifying like his resolve, Michael felt a coursing strength that was not merely about physical endurance. It was a reaffirmation, a rekindled commitment to the path he had chosen. Where there had been whispers of doubt, there now hummed a quiet confidence. In those moments that followed, as he resumed his duties with an unyielding fervor, Michael didn't just reclaim his stance as a guardsman, he embraced it. The smiles and nods of recognition from the crowd were no longer oppressive reminders of his stumble, but affirmations of the silent victory he had achieved. Father John's gesture was more than a mere encouragement. It was a catalyst for transformation, a spark that reignited the fire within Michael. As he stood there, the embodiment of poise and fortitude, he knew that his role extended beyond tradition and duty. It was a calling, and he would face it with unwavering grace. Amidst the soft murmur of whispered prayers and shuffling feet, the grand hall of the Vatican resonated with an unexpectedly palpable sense of admiration. Only hours ago, the same hall played witness to a moment that could have easily unraveled the dignity of its occupant. Now, in the golden sheen of the late afternoon sun, which cast halos through the grand stained glass windows, it was transformed into a sanctuary of respect and reverence. The focal point of this shift was none other than Michael Turner, the young Swiss guard known for his quiet dedication and unyielding sense of duty. What had begun as a day fraught with tension and unease, marked by Michael's inadvertent tumble, a slip that echoed louder than the solemn chants of the choir, was now seen differently. The slip was initially greeted with a collective intake of breath, the kind that connotes a shared embarrassment. Yet its memory was quickly reshaped by the unfolding of Michael's humanizing response. It was not the fall that defined the moment, but how he rose from it. In the aftermath of the event, a gathering was convened to acknowledge the true spirit of service beyond mere ceremonial protocol. The hall was filled with dignitaries, clergy, and fellow guardsmen, arising in response to a gesture of anticlimactic humility turned triumph. With Father John's words still warming the atmosphere, he quietly approached the podium, ready to cast his light of commendation. "It's not the perfection we aspire to that defines us, but how we rise from our imperfections." Father John's voice reverberated softly yet powerfully across the room. There was a nod of agreement from the assembly, a subtle wave of heads acknowledging a truth often overlooked. It wasn't the first time a guard had stumbled, but it was perhaps the first time one had managed to elevate the simple act of standing back up into a statement of intrinsic grace. Under Father John's guidance, the narrative shifted, turning Michael's moment of seeming vulnerability into a powerful testament of his steadfast character. The recognition ceremony was suffused with a quiet dignity, a reflection of Michael himself, a man whose lineage of service was as much about inner strength as it was about the proud, vibrant uniform he wore. As Father John leaned on sage words of recognition, those present found themselves revisiting their own stories of resilience and overcoming, threading their experiences with humility and learning from the young guard standing before them. Michael stood quietly, a subtle smile hinting at gratitude, not from a sense of vanity, but from a profound recognition of what such acknowledgement meant. In those moments, he became more than a simple guardsman. He was emblematic of the values the Swiss Guard embodied: honor, resilience, and quiet perseverance. His earlier embarrassment was transformed, the hall's walls now echoing with a deeper, resounding respect. The applause that followed was more than just a celebration. It was a collective salutation to human courage, echoed silently in the hearts of those who understood the weight and the triumph of rising from a fall.